Welcome back, llamas. We are on block 10 and topic 10 on page 345. I don't have my intro slide. And we are going to get started on these problems. All right. So we're continuing our discussion on misleading graphs. And I have a cute little graph here with some animal critters. I can have graphs that have different shapes on them. That is okay. But there's something else misleading about this graph. If I was to ask you what is the mode of this graph, what does mode stand for? Most. Okay. Could you tell me who has the most? The snake. But could you tell me what the mode is of the snake? No, because they did not give you what? The numbers on the vertical axis. So I could make a graph that looks like this. That's not the issue. The issue is that they did not put the numbers on the side. Now could you tell me what the snake has?
66.
Like 60.
Like 50.
No, like
57-ish.
56.
No.
So we can see the snake is about 57 now that they put the vertical axis label on there. So on number 1, we need to write the vertical axis is missing the numbers. Number 1, we're writing the vertical axis is missing the numbers. Okay, the next 2 problems are not in your book. You're just going to watch up here. So I have this graph Samuel created, and he said it's 100% correct, and I agree it's fine, but he says it's kind of boring, so he wants to spice it up some. He wants to make it a little fancy. So he plays around on his computer with the graph, and he comes up with this. He decides to kind of turn it sideways and make it cool looking like that. Can he still do that and it's mimicking the same data? Is it still reading 5? No. It kind of looks below 5. Is it still reading 4 for Bellows? No. It looks way below 4. So when they cockeyed it, it made it look misleading. So we cannot cockeye it like that. So he was like, well, maybe if I turn it another way, it will be all right. So he turned it, Hunter, the other way. It looks a little bit better this way. 5 kind of still looks like 5. I have some people not even looking at my board. That's hard to do. Maddie. Then 4 looks way above 4. So, is it still misleading now? Yes. So, the verdict is I can't change it side to side and it still look right. Next, we're looking at this circle pie graph. Right now, what 2 colors are tied? Red and blue, and who's the smallest? Yellow. He wanted to spice this one up, so he decided to kind of turn it like that. Is it still okay now?
Yes.
Still looks fine. I can go a little more. Still looks pretty good. But if he goes a lot, now all 3 of them kind of look the same size, don't they?
Yeah.
So that starts getting misleading. Still really looks the same size. This looks terrible. Can you even see yellow? No. So we really aren't supposed to turn graphs like that because it changes the graph and makes it misleading. All right, so let's go to what is this, number 2? We have 3 graphs that are misleading. And I have 4 different answers for them. Look at the first graph. Raise your hand when you see the error on the first graph. So everyone's hand is going to be raised by the time I call on somebody. Look at the first one and find the error. Pretty easy to spot. Use your answers to help see what's wrong with it. Raise your hand when you think you have it. I'm waiting for all hands to be up. All right. Landon, what'd you see?
The vertical axis doesn't start at 0.
The vertical axis doesn't start at 0. They started at where? 220. Can we start at 220? No. So we're going to write for the first one, the vertical axis does not start at 0. You already wrote it? Sure. Okay, look at the next one and raise your hand when you think you spot the error on the next one. Use your answers to help you. Daniel, just draw an arrow to it. Waiting for some hands still. Think you got it, Hakeem? Which one do you think it is? What'd you say? Oh. No. What do you think, Connor?
I think it's the intervals are not consistent.
The intervals are not consistent. Here it went from 0 to 50, so it should go to 100 next. Did it go to 100? No, it didn't go up by the same amount. So the intervals are not consistent. And the last one I kind of feel like can be both of the answers, but one is better than the other. Turn the light off, Maddie. Kyron, what you think?
The perspective is misleading.
I kind of thought that one at first as well, but what is the other choice? I done forgot. The bars are not consistent widths. That one, the perspective is misleading is when they start turning it, I think is what they're talking about. So that's what they mean by perspective is misleading. But I kind of feel like perspective is misleading on this one too, but actually the bars are not consistent widths. This meant, but it's still a thickness. They're representing bars. So are the milk jugs the same widths? No. So that is why it's inconsistent. They're making the chocolate milk look a lot bigger than it really is. Alicia's on point today. And one last question. Number 3. We have some skateboards and the number of hours spent on a skateboard. And There are two things that are misleading about this graph. Raise your hand when you have found at least one to share. Colby, what's misleading?
The numbers.
What about the numbers?
Wait, no, never mind.
Jake?
It's the numbers because it jumps to 0 to 5.
The numbers jump from 0 to 5, so the next number should be 10. Did they go to 10? No, they started counting by 1. So we're going to write, for our first thing, vertical axis numbers are not counted correctly. Vertical axis numbers are not counted correctly. And Kirsten, what's the second thing?
The bar's width is not consistent.
The bars' widths are not consistent. They use different widths of skateboards. They made Teresa's skateboard look super duper big when it's not extremely that much bigger than the other skateboards. So the bars' widths are not consistent as well. And I'm not going to make you redraw the graph. Bless you. The bars' widths are inconsistent and the vertical axis numbers are not correct. So we're going to spend the rest of the hour working on online work. Extra credit will be done if you have class time. It's either page 343, quiet. 343, what some people have been doing is looking online at a graph and just drawing it on page 343 and writing what's wrong with it. You can do that. Or if you would rather do constructive response 1 and 2, that's up here. You have to have permission to get on Quizzes. 2 new assignments have been added to your online work, so if you feel like you're done, you're not, because they were added today. And thanks for listening. Have a great day. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment for any questions. And peace out, llamas. Bye. We need to get a llama.